Ever wonder what's really going on, like behind the scenes when you swipe your credit card?
Yeah.
Today we're going to take a deep dive into MasterCard.
Oh, cool.
We're looking at their potential, with all the changes happening and how we pay for things globally.
Right.
And you found this really interesting interview with Shelby McFadden.
Yes.
She's from MLI, Full Asset Management.
Uh-huh.
And she really gets into some of the things that could make or break MasterCard's future.
I think what's really interesting about her take is most people, think of MasterCard and Visa as basically the same.
Yeah.
But she really highlights how, their strategies and their strengths, they're really different.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at where they operate around the world and what types of transactions they handle.
Right. And she even uses this phrase, arbiters of the rails.
Yes.
To describe their role.
Such a good analogy.
In the payment system.
It is. Think of it this way. MasterCard and Visa, they're not like the trains themselves.
Right.
They control the tracks, right? They're setting the rules, making sure everything runs smoothly. But even though they both, run these payment networks, their exposure to debit and credit transactions is different, especially in big markets like the U.S. and Europe.
Yeah.
This actually matters a lot when it comes to how profitable they are.
Yeah. And McFadden actually prefers MasterCard in the current economy.
Yes.
Because they're more exposed to credit, right?
Right.
Why is that?
So it really comes down to regulations around what are called interchange fees.
Okay.
So that's the fee that merchants pay when you use your card.
Right.
So debit interchange fees, they're capped.
Okay.
But credit interchange fees, they're not.
Oh, yeah.
So MasterCard can, potentially make more money from those credit transactions.
Got it.
Especially, younger generations, they love their credit card rewards program.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're using credit more and more.
So it's kind of like, it's good for MasterCard.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of risky.
Right.
If there's suddenly, a lot of people can't pay their credit card bills because of the economy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a balance, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just about what's happening here in the U.S. You got to look globally.
Yeah.
So MasterCard, they have a super strong presence in Europe. They've been dominant there for years.
Right.
And they're doing well in Latin America, too. They're moving away from cash really quickly.
Right, right.
But breaking into China, that's a different story.
Yeah, they've had a tough time there. Both MasterCard and Visa, right?
Yes, exactly.
So what makes China so hard to get into?
Well, China's got its own thing going on, right?
Yeah.
They've got a really well-established payment system.
Right.
And it's largely backed by the government.
Right, right.
So for companies from outside China, it's tough to compete.
Right. So even these giants,
right,
they can't just assume they're going to take over every market.
Exactly. It shows how important it is to be there early.
Yeah.
And really understand the differences in each region.
Okay, so let's talk about competition a little closer to home.
Okay.
McFadden mentions the Capital One and Discover merger.
Yeah.
How could that change things?
That merger, it could really shake things up. It's still kind of early.
Yeah.
But, we have to think about will this new bigger player, will it start a race to the bottom?
Okay.
In terms of pricing and the services they offer.
So they might try to undercut MasterCard and Visa.
Exactly.
And that could squeeze everyone's profits, right?
Right. But McFadden points out it's not a sure thing.
Yeah.
It depends on what Capital One and Discover, how they use their new combined power.
Right.
Do they just go for growth no matter what?
Right.
Or do they try to balance, staying competitive with making a profit?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. So let's move on to how MasterCard is doing more than just processing payments.
Okay.
They're moving into what McFadden calls value-added services, right?
Yes.
What does that even mean?
They're basically going beyond just the basic rails of payments instead of just moving money around. They're using their huge network, all that transaction data they have to offer other services.
Okay.
Especially in cybersecurity and fraud protection,
right?
Which are super important these days with all the digital threats out there.
Yeah, yeah.
For businesses especially.
So they're becoming a one-stop shop.
Exactly.
You can process payments, you can protect yourself, you can analyze your data.
Right.
All in one place.
Yeah, and McFadden points out they're even getting into that buy now, pay later market.
Oh, wow.
Which is super popular.
Yeah, yeah.
They're using their debit infrastructure to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're trying to become a real partner for businesses.
Absolutely.
Help them deal with all the complicated stuff in the digital world.
Yes.
And they're also looking at B2B payments, right?
Yes. That's a huge opportunity for growth.
Okay.
Think about all those small and medium-sized businesses still using like old school checks and invoices. It's ripe for disruption.
Yeah.
And MasterCard's trying to get them on board with things like, attractive rewards programs and financing options.
Okay.
They're trying to be more than just a name on your credit card.
Right.
They want to be a partner for businesses of all sizes.
But there's got to be a downside to all this, right?
Well, yeah.
These value-added services, they might be good for growth.
Yeah.
But McFadden says they're usually less profitable than MasterCard's core business.
Exactly. It's like a classic innovator's dilemma. Do they stick with what's making them money now?
Yeah.
Or do they invest in these new things, even though they might not be as profitable?
Right. It's a tough choice.
It is. And it's even tougher because, as McFadden mentioned, the growth of these value-added services, it's been lower than expected.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Partially because businesses are being a little more cautious about their spending right now.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's something investors are really paying attention to, huh?
Absolutely.
How's MasterCard's management going to handle this?
Yeah, big question.
Will they, double down on what's working?
Right.
Or keep putting money into these new things?
Yeah.
Even if it means, their profits might dip a little in the short term?
Exactly.
These are big decisions, right?
They are.
Really going to shape their future.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to balance, right?
It is.
Trying to, make those money now.
Yeah.
But also invest in the future.
Right.
And then there's always, the regulations and lawsuits and stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That can really impact any company.
Absolutely.
Especially, a huge global company like MasterCard.
Right.
McFadden actually talked about the possibility of more regulation on those credit card interchange fees.
Yes.
That's been something people have been talking about for a while now.
Right, it has.
If that happens, it could really hit MasterCard's profits hard.
Yes, definitely.
Especially since they make so much from those credit transactions.
Right.
But it's kind of a mixed bag, right?
It is, yeah.
On the one hand, regulations could hurt their profits. But McFadden also pointed out that it could, make things fairer.
Right.
Everyone would have to play by the same rules then.
Exactly.
Which could actually help MasterCard because then the smaller companies couldn't undercut them on price.
Exactly. Yeah. And, regulation isn't always a bad thing.
Right.
Sometimes it can actually make things more stable and predictable.
Yeah.
Which can be good for business in the long run.
Okay.
But of course, there's also the risk of lawsuits.
Yeah.
As McFadden mentioned, being as big as MasterCard means they're always under scrutiny.
Yeah.
There's always the potential for someone to sue them.
Right. So how does an investor like McFadden deal with that?
Right.
It seems like a constant worry.
Yeah. Well, she really emphasizes looking for transparency from MasterCard's management.
Okay.
Are they being upfront? And are they being accountable?
Okay.
She really scrutinizes their filings.
Yeah.
She stays up to date on any legal stuff going on.
Yeah.
And she really evaluates how they're handling things.
Yeah.
So basically, she's looking for a pattern, right?
Yeah.
Are they acting responsibly?
Yeah.
Are they willing to address problems directly?
So it's not just about avoiding lawsuits altogether?
Right.
It's about, showing they're committed to ethical business practices.
Exactly. Yeah. That's becoming really important these days for investors and consumers.
Yeah. Your reputation is everything.
Exactly.
One mistake can, really hurt you long term.
Absolutely.
So let's switch gears a bit and talk about MasterCard's valuation.
Okay.
So they're trading at a higher price than Visa right now.
Yeah.
So is that justified?
Right. That's the big question.
That's a big question for investors.
It is, yeah.
And there are definitely different opinions on this.
Right.
So the more pessimistic view, the bearish argument, is that MasterCard might not be able to keep growing at its current rate.
Yeah.
Especially with those value-added services being slower than expected.
Right.
Some people are worried that MasterCard is just becoming a simple core play.
Yeah.
Which means their future growth might be limited.
Right.
And if that's the case, their current valuation might be too high.
Exactly. Yeah.
But McFadden herself actually acknowledges that MasterCard's valuation is rich, is the word she used.
Yeah.
But she still thinks the company is going to be valuable in the long term.
Right.
And this is where her assessment of the management team is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
She's looking at their decisions, their strategy,
their vision.
So it's like she's betting on the team.
Yeah.
And their ability to make that vision happen.
Exactly.
It's more of a long-term view. not just looking at today's numbers.
Right. So what's driving that higher valuation compared to Visa?
Yeah.
Is it just that the market thinks MasterCard will grow faster?
I think that's definitely a big part of it.
Yeah.
The market seems to think MasterCard is like more adaptable,
Right.
more innovative,
Yeah.
and in a better position to take advantage of new opportunities,
Right.
especially in new markets and with those value-added services.
Yes, exactly. McFadden even suggests that being number 2 might actually be good for MasterCard.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but she thinks, like, being the underdog
Yeah.
has forced them to be more dynamic,
Okay.
innovative.
So it makes you wonder, does competition actually help companies be better?
It really does. It's a good thought. Are there other industries where that might be true?
Yeah, interesting.
But for now, let's get back to MasterCard and the challenges they face.
Okay.
We've talked about opportunities, risks, but what about the everyday person?
Yeah.
How's all this going to affect them?
That's a great question. It's easy to get lost in all the financial stuff, right?
Yeah,
And forget that these companies are like shaping how we use money every day.
absolutely.
Every time we use a credit card
Yes.
or shop online
Uh-huh.
or even just carry cash,
Yeah,
we're part of a system.
right.
And MasterCard and Visa are a big part of that system.
Absolutely. Yeah. Think about how much the world of payment has changed just in the last few years.
Oh, yeah.
Mobile payments, digital wallets,
Yeah.
contactless transactions. It's incredible.
It is.
And MasterCard is right there.
Yeah.
Adapting, innovating, keeping up with it all.
It's amazing to see how technology is like reshaping how we think about money.
It really is.
But with all this new technology, there are new risks too.
Oh, for sure.
You know, data breaches, identity theft,
Right.
all those cyber threats.
Yeah, we have to be more careful than ever.
We can't just trust the systems.
Right.
We need to like know the risks,
Mm,
protect ourselves,
yeah,
and hold these companies accountable for our data.
absolutely.
And that brings us back to transparency and responsibility.
Right.
MasterCard needs to show that you're not just about profit,
Yeah,
but also about protecting their customers
right.
and building trust.
Exactly.
They need to prove they're like a reliable and ethical partner
Yeah,
in this, increasingly complex world.
absolutely. Let's dive into some more specifics about MasterCard's strategy now.
Okay.
How are they actually addressing these challenges?
Okay, so we've talked about, Visa, American Express, the
Yes.
traditional players,
Uh-huh.
and that potential shakeup from the Capital One Discover merger.
Right.
But what about like these newer companies?
Right,
The
right.
fintech startups
Yeah.
and even the big tech companies like
Mhm.
Apple and Google.
Yeah, they're all getting into payments.
They are.
How's MasterCard dealing with that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
These new players, they're coming in with different ideas.
Yeah.
They often focus on like specific groups of people
Okay.
or specific needs.
Right.
They're not weighed down by like old systems.
Yeah.
They can move a lot faster.
Right.
And they're really good with technology. They're
Yeah.
using new tech to appeal to, younger people
Yep.
who are more comfortable with like digital wallets and mobile payments.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It seems like MasterCard would have to do things differently
Yeah.
to compete with someone like Apple.
Right.
They've got like a whole ecosystem of users and devices already.
Exactly. It's not just about like having better features.
Right.
It's about whole platforms and experiences.
Exactly.
So MasterCard has to be smart.
Yeah.
They probably can't beat those tech giants at their own game, right?
Right.
So they got to find ways to work with them, integrate,
Yeah.
and offer something unique.
Yep.
Think about security, global reach,
Yeah.
their experience with fraud prevention.
Yeah, those are things they're good at.
Yeah, exactly. Those are their strengths.
So they're playing to their strengths.
Right.
And looking for ways to part there
Yeah,
instead of fighting.
exactly. It's a smart move.
Yeah.
And it's not just about partnering with tech companies either.
Oh, okay.
MasterCard's also investing in fintech startups,
Yeah.
exploring blockchain technology,
Yeah.
even looking at the metaverse.
Wow.
It's all about staying ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah.
Anticipating trends, being willing to try new things.
That takes guts for a company like MasterCard.
It does, yeah.
It's easy to like stick with what they know
Yeah,
and resist change.
for sure.
But it sounds like they're trying to build a culture of innovation
Right.
where people are encouraged to experiment, take risks.
Absolutely. That's so important these days.
It is.
Things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
You can't afford to stand still.
Right.
You got to be constantly evolving, adapting
Yeah.
to stay relevant.
Right.
McFadden really emphasizes this point.
Okay.
She thinks MasterCard's commitment to innovation,
Yeah.
that's one of their biggest advantages.
So if they can keep that up,
Right.
what does the future look like for MasterCard?
Right.
Could they become even bigger?
Yeah.
Or will these new companies catch up?
It's hard to say for sure, right?
Yeah.
Only time will tell.
Right.
But I think MasterCard's definitely doing the right things to be successful.
Yeah.
They're embracing new technology,
Yep.
exploring new markets, building that culture of innovation.
So it all comes down to executions, right?
Yeah.
They have the size, the resources, the knowledge.
They do.
But they need to be flexible, adaptable,
Right.
and willing to take risks.
Yeah. And they need to keep showing that they're committed to doing business the right way.
Right.
Building trust with consumers, with regulators.
Yeah, it's a complicated world out there. There are
Right.
going to be challenges.
Definitely.
This deep dive has really shown like how complex the payments landscape is.
It really has. Yeah.
And all the decisions a company like MasterCard has to make.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget about all that.
It is.
when
Yeah.
You're just swiping your card.
Absolutely. There's so much going on behind the scenes.
It's crazy.
It really is.
It's like technology, regulation, consumer behavior, all changing at the same time.
Constantly evolving. Yeah.
And MasterCard's right in the middle of it.
Right at the center.
It's been really interesting,
Yeah.
learning about a company that's so important to our lives.
Yeah.
But we don't really think about that much.
It's true. Yeah. I hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of how commerce is changing
Yeah,
and the choices companies like MasterCard have to make.
absolutely. We've talked about so much today.
We have.
MasterCard's competition.
Yeah.
Their focus on innovation, those value-added services.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at the risks, the rewards,
Yeah.
and what it all means for consumers like us.
Exactly. Remember, the future of finance, it's not set in stone.
Right.
It's shaped by companies, regulators,
Yeah.
and by the choices we make as consumers.
So stay informed, stay curious,
Yeah.
and think about the impact of your own financial decisions.
Exactly.
Every time you buy something, even if it's small,
Right.
you're part of shaping the contour of finance.
You are.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of MasterCard.
Thanks for having me. Till last one.